threatening figures approached slowly. Leading them was Tulip, head-bandaged rightful owner of His Majesty. In the heavy, tense silence, only His Grace kept his noble composure.
Wait. We must figure out what this kid is doing here.
He's an intruder, a greenhorn.
Well, he's no beginner, that's for sure. That blow he gave me proves it. I'll have to give him that much.
Then why'd he knock you out? What was he running from?
Suspicious, no doubt. Wouldn't hurt to kill him, I'll admit. But he's definitely no amateur.
His Grace studied the ash between his fingers.
Take him to the big buffalo. He said he knows him.
And once again, the prince was escorted down winding underground tunnels. This time he was fairly certain he'd never see daylight again. The musty catacombs rose upward now, the path growing steeper until they reached roughly hewn earthen steps. Eventually, they entered a dimly lit chamber. The prince realized where he was. They were back in the lobby of the Four Wise Flayers, that charming little pub. Tulip led the way. Marrow and the others flanked the guest. The bartender was still standing by the two demijohns, indifferent patrons still seated with tin mugs, same as before. The boy by the window played his harmonica just like when the prince had first arrived. The only new addition was a fat, messy mulatto woman snoring on the floor. Also present, a man sitting on a crate, Busy Gizzard, whom the prince alone knew to be the real Trebitch. The gang, with squat Tulip at the lead, caused no stir.
Busy Gizzard, I want my $2.50. Now!
I protest. I delivered the goods. He's my witness.
Your goods clocked me in the head and ran off.
You wanted someone strong and skilled. Well, anyone who knocks you out can't be weak. And escaping? That's pretty skillful too. Just look at this kid. All muscle. Stand up for yourself, friend.
The prince began to notice some worrying plebeian impulses within himself, like sudden bursts of anger and an alarming desire to punch people. He was, at that moment, quietly boiling.
You filthy slaver! Rotten scoundrel!
Let's not get personal. That gets us nowhere.
I ought to smash your face in.
Well, what's stopping you?
His Majesty's royal fist landed a picture-perfect left hook on the real Trebitch's face, earning him a murmur of admiration. Busy Gizzard, however, responded with blinding speed and considerable force, smacking His Majesty square in the mouth. The prince crashed into the bartender and knocked over one of the massive demijohns.
Let's not turn this into a brawl.
But the prince lunged again. Another punch, this time followed by a swift kick, sent him flying against the wall. His face now barely resembled anything human. Bells rang in his head. His left ear was torn near the lobe.
I really suggest we stop now.
Water. Please. I haven't had any since this afternoon.
The shack stank of rags and liquor, sweltering in the damp heat. The bartender, with visible disdain, poured half a glass of brandy and watered it down. The prince gulped it, instantly choking. It took all his willpower not to cough. Then the heat hit him, and he launched himself at Trebitch again. He dodged the kick. He barely felt the next slap. He was panting, consumed with one burning desire: to kill. Fists flew like helicopter blades. From some primal instinct, he drove his knee into Trebitch's gut, knocking him over. As they tumbled together, biting and brawling, the liquor in the prince's veins ignited. With animalistic rage, he slammed Trebitch's head against the floor. When they scrambled to their feet again, the prince sprang like a tiger. He kicked and punched until one final hook sent Busy Gizzard flying into a corner. Before he could recover, His Majesty grabbed the nearest crate and hurled it at him, then lunged forward to finish the job, but was yanked back.
Whoa!
Let me go.
Once he's ragdoll grade, you leave him be.
His Majesty's face was now a raw slab of meat. His eyes barely peered from swollen sockets. His nose had been flattened into a horn. His lips ballooned like a boxer's, bruises in every shade painted across what was once a delicate, princely visage. Busy Gizzard slowly stood. His face looked like it had been marinated in fists, but he still managed to nod smugly at Tulipan.
And you say this is bad merchandise?
What do you want with this wild child?
The new nickname stuck. In the underworld, naming is quick and disturbingly apt.
He's suspicious. Jumped Tulip out of nowhere. Says he's got a message for the big buffalo.
The room fell silent.
He wants to speak with the big buffalo. Go call him.
Me? Are you insane?
Let him go in if he knows the guy.
Someone grabbed the prince by the collar and shoved him through a curtained door. He was now in the big buffalo's den. Luxury suite, underworld edition. 4 moldy clay walls. No furniture. Just a mat on the floor. The big buffalo lay there, with a flickering lamp sputtering smoke beside him. He was a mestizo, absurdly tall and wide. A hulking slab of meat, bald round head, native eyes, swollen lips like a boxer. And yet his skin was nearly white, a bizarre mix. He stared blankly at the boy. On one log-sized bicep, a tattooed anchor. His cut-off shirt revealed more ink creeping around the edges.
Kill me if you must. I lied about knowing you.
The buffalo's dead gaze didn't shift.
Who are you?
Fulig Jimmy's little brother.
A noble connection sometimes helps, he thought.
You're lying.
The stink of kerosene and damp dirt hung thick in the air. The buffalo slowly rose.
Who shoved you in here?
I don't know.
The prince's hand crept toward his hidden baton. He struck, but the buffalo's arm shot out with terrifying speed, grabbing him mid-swing. The prince slammed face first into the massive chest, feeling like a pebble caught in an avalanche. He blacked out. With a short movement, the buffalo tossed him back into the pub.
This kid tried to club me.
The remaining patrons smirked.
I wanted you all to see him before I squash him.
Said he knew you.
The buffalo grabbed the prince by the neck.
Tell the fish that too.
I came to see Dirty Fred. I swear.
Something flickered in the buffalo's merciless eyes.
You know Fred?
As well as he knows you.
That's a mistake, said a voice from the doorway. The kid does know me, and don't you dare lay a finger on him, Buffalo. Dirty Fred stood in the door. The prince's brain turned upside down. Childhood friends denied knowing him, while Dirty Fred, whom he had never met, claimed they were close. But the buffalo's grip did not relax, and the way he looked at Fred made even hardened killers in the room shudder. His eyes blazed with greenish, murderous hate.
Me as His Majesty. First Diary of Fulig Jimmy Part 5. Me as His Majesty, Fulig Jimmy the First, am now writing this here with me own royal hand, sometime during the first official year of my reign, thanks to fortune or fate, or maybe the tide, I don't know. Now, I gotta learn how to write in this fancy style, cause I keep seeing letters written like this every day and I gotta sign them too. But I still didn't say why I started writing this diary. See, it all started back on the ship when I was chatting with the king, back when I still thought being a king was a big deal. Turns out it ain't even that hard to rule. Just gotta get hold of a throne in this crazy crowd. The whole world's just like one big shove fest. Sometimes you're up front, sometimes you're trampled in the back. So in the first year of my kingin', I arrived at Elmira Island, right where the capital is. They was roasting oxen on the shore, cannons going off, fireworks too, flags flying, music blasting, all that jazz. There were soldiers standing in rows, people waving hankies, and a few hundred folks all shouting, "Long live! Long live!" Now, I've been round the world more than once, but I ain't never been welcomed like that in no port before. So we landed. First came the Gompretzel Higaldo, who is bald again, 'cause he's always on boats and needs an aerodynamic head, I guess. He's holding his hat all respectful. Then came me, then Egmont, and behind us, the Mornin relatives. Music going, people saluting, taking off their hats, and the crowd yelling again, "Long live the king!" Which, to be fair, is a mighty proper thing to yell in a moment like that. Now, Sir Egmont, I've known him a long time, what with him being my mother's brother and all, and he's got this old sword mark across his forehead. He leans in and goes, "Wave to the people, your majesty." So I did what seemed natural. I squinted noble-like and started nodding my head, kinda beckoning at him with my chin. But Sir Egmont starts twitching like he got fleas. "Not like that, sire, with your hand." So I pointed my finger at the people and wiggled it, kinda jokey. Egmont just sighed and muttered that maybe I should knock it off for a bit. Honestly, nothing pleases that man. And I was just getting into it. Then, when I stepped on land too, they fired the music back up, shouted, "Long live!" again, and took me to this carriage covered in flowers from wheel to wheel. We headed to the big castle, 'cause they got this hill here, and at the top of the hill is a castle, which the old lost king said was called a main castle. Made sense to me. It was a real one too. Walls, cannon slits, and actual sky up above. They fired off more cannons when we galloped into the courtyard, where the whole garrison, all 20 of them, stood in neat lines. They gave a proper volley and we arrived in one piece. Then out from the gate comes this tall, smiling lady. Real classy looking, but totally gray-haired. I'm thinking, here comes the Queen Mother. She'll be sobbing for her son soon. But listen to this madness. She spreads her arms, walks right up to me, and says, "My son!" Yup, she said I was her son. Not even joking, and I sure ain't. I mean, we don't even look alike. Not even in the dark. That's when I thought, well, now I've gone properly insane. But she was so nice. Hugged me tight, kissed me on the cheek, and I gotta say, it'd been over 10 years since any mama kissed me. Felt real nice, even if it was somebody else's mama. Still felt like mine, though. That motherly hug and kiss was mine, and I wouldn't have traded it for no pretty girl's kiss. Not even a really pretty one. World's full of weird stuff like this. And I swear on my crown, which, by the way, is a serious promise for a king, I truly loved that lady queen right then. Just like I loved my real mama. And I really did love her. She's sleeping forever in Devonshire now, bless her soul. Sweetest lady there ever was. I ain't ashamed to write this. Even a vagabond's got a mama. Same as the fancy folks. Anyway, back to the point. I've always been curious since I was a kid. Once I busted open Lord Nelson's bust at school just to see what was inside. Nothing in there, just empty air. But I saw it, didn't I? Felt the same way now. I didn't know what the game was here. What was the trick? So when I was finally left alone with Gomprek the Hidalgo, or Higaldo, or High Doodle, or whatever they call him, I figured, this guy's gotta know what's going on. Probably got the whole thing figured out in his brain. And man, I would have loved to bust open his head like a statue, just to see what's inside. Bet it's air too. Then he goes, "Your Majesty, would you like to rest?" By then, I was in my royal room, the one they gave me. I told him I'd rather talk to Sir Egmont. He says tomorrow morning, during the formal audience, as is customary. So I say real firm like, right now. He left looking real sad. Guess he really cares about them fancy court rules. Then Egmont shows up. He says, "Your Majesty, you should wear the marshal's uniform. That's the traditional royal attire here." And I go, "But I'm the new king, ain't I?" He says, "Yes, Fernandez, who used to be the Reagan prince, has passed away. We voted not to appoint a new duke. That was a month ago. So you now have full royal powers. Used to be you were underage, but now that don't matter. You're old enough." I look at him and say, real plain, "You're my mom's brother. I know your face and that scar. You know I'm not really me, I'm just a stand-in who's been made king. The real Saint Antonio is in Singapore. So what do you call this whole situation?" He thinks for a second, then says, "It would be punishable by death if I believe what you just said, sire, that you are not the rightful king, because by our law, anyone who impersonates the monarch shall be sentenced to death by hanging." I tell him, "But the king appointed me." He goes, "That would be mighty hard to prove, especially if they decide by morning that you're guilty of impersonation and should be hanged." Well, things were starting to heat up fast, but then Egmont laughs. "Of course, your majesty was just joking, right? You are our rightful king, right?" And I say real quiet, "I am." And that's when he left me all alone so the servant could bring me the marshal's uniform, which is where this fine mess really begins.
To be continued.